Okay, everybody, it is me, Gregory Mannarino. It is Sunday, November 21st. Wow, this year is almost over. November 21st, 2021. This is my newest segment of Markets A Look Ahead, and I want to cover a lot with you. Let's do that, people. Let's start off with this. Towards the end of last week, and I covered this, we started to see what is clearly a fear trade. What am I talking about? Well, you saw the entire yield curve come down and dollar strength. Invariably, people, when you see this kind of a move, first of all, what is the fear? What's driving the fear trade right now? It should be very obvious to you. There is all of this talk about more lockdowns in nations across Europe, okay? And there is a lot of speculation that this could potentially spread. I mean, look at the setup here. Turn on the mainstream news all freaking weekend, all last week, towards the end of the week. It's how, this whole COVID thing is getting out of control here in the United States. Cases surging. They're setting the groundwork here for another lockdown. I mean, look, the driver of the markets is the Federal Reserve. We all know that. And nothing would make the Federal Reserve or any central bank happier than another lockdown, allowing the central banks to finish their end game. People, look, how many times has this guy explain to you that nothing is what it seems to be, and the governing body of the world right now is the central banks, and they got the world by the throat here via or by their debt-based economic model that they have full control over. So again, going back to what I've been telling you since time immemorial, I love to say that. Look, not only are they going to create reasons to continue to borrow from the future in greater and greater amounts, okay, we understand that this mechanism here, it's a slave system. It's a slave system, people, okay? And understanding that, this is how they exert control on everybody, nations around the world and individual citizens. Okay, so this is what they want to do, and it's already happening. More lockdowns would allow central banks to, again, become the lender and buyer of last resort, to own the world, to issue more of their product. Central banks have one product. You all know this already, but if you're new here, pay attention. They issue debt. That's all they do. You hear, you turn on, one of the FOMC meetings, and you hear Fed Chair Powell out there talking about tools and tools and tools. He has no tools. He has one tool, and that one tool is debt and how he's going to manipulate debt moving forward. And what do we understand? We're in the biggest debt hyperbubble the world has ever seen, and we haven't seen anything yet. All we are witnessing here is the ramifications of a debt hyperbubble, okay? And every single president will continue to borrow more than the previous guy. Look at just the last 3 presidents, people. Open your eyes. I don't care which one you worship. You worship Obama, he did it. You worship Trump, he did it. You worship the current guy, yeah, he has worshipers too. He's doing the same thing, creating reasons to borrow debt, to borrow from the future, to empower the central banks. That's what this is. It's all it is. And understanding that the Federal Reserve is the driver, they're not going to stop their easy money policy, people. So with that said, I'm just going to sum this up for you in a sentence here. With regard to the market, the stock market, buy into weakness. Buy into weakness. You hear what I'm telling you? What does that sound like? Am I deviating from the strategy that I've kept all of you on for years? No. That means we buy the dips. If this market decides to sell off because of worries of another global shutdown, I mean, that's what really is happening right now. You got protests erupting across Europe. I don't know if you're even allowed to know that, but just search it for yourself. Look, you're not going to hear a lot of this stuff on the mainstream, and sometimes stuff sneaks through here. But protests against COVID restrictions are erupting because people have had enough. People have had enough. And I think people understand that it's really a control mechanism. Face diapers and being told what to do. No free thought, no free action, no free movements. All they want is submission. They want slaves. They want people to continue to have their minds twisted. You understand? That's what this is all about. It's what it's all about, on top of the elimination of an entire class of people on a global scale. It's so out of control, people. So look, we need to keep our eyes on crude oil. I think you all understand the mechanism here. Watch what happens with crude. If crude falls because of demand concerns on more lockdowns, yes, absolutely, the stock market will fall. If crude falls, it hits the entire energy sector, it hits the financial sector, and it pulls the market down. You know these concepts better than anybody else if you've been following this blog. Let me explain this to you real quick. If you've been with me probably for 6 months, you should consider yourself pretty much an expert on market dynamics and how they play into each other with regard to the debt market, watching the yield curve, watching the dollar, paying attention to the MMRI, which is still over 90 people. There is a link in the description of this video for a live update there. I don't like the MMRI there. The market is definitely in some kind of a fear trade mode. And depending on what happens this week, okay, looking ahead a little bit, it's certainly possible. Depending on what they do. Again, it's the mass media here that is propagandizing people, causing fear. Look, you know how this works. Make people afraid of something, and you can literally control their minds and make them do anything. You puppetize them. You turn people into puppets by simply making you afraid of something. If they're going to start creating more fear of lockdowns, whether more are going to happen or not. Again, it's already happening in certain parts of the world here. And Europe right now, like I told you, it's erupting with protests. They're going to shut all of this down, or they're not going to allow you to see it. You understand? I told all of you that the internet is being whitewashed. You cannot have a contrary view. It's very frightening. Here on this blog, I told you, there is an algorithm that is followed. If you put a comment here and you write something that is contrary to the mainstream narrative, they're not going to let that post show up. You must write it in code. Okay, I don't know if the bots are smart enough to pick that up. Maybe they are. You'll notice if you put a comment here, sometimes they never show up. And I hear from you all the time. Greg, I wrote this, I wrote that. My comments are not showing up, blah, blah, blah. Look, it had nothing to do with me. This is the control of information. You see, no free thought, like I've been explaining to you for the longest time. You must comply. You must be made a slave moving forward. That's the truth here. Anyway, so with regard to this market, people, if they continue to propagate fear, okay, with regard to demand concerns, crude oil, retail, whatever it might be, absolutely, this market could fall under some pressure in the short run. But I'm going to say it again. Buy into weakness. Why is Greg Mannarino saying buy into weakness? Because why would I be saying that? Well, it's very, very simple. What do we know, again, is the driver of the market? It's the Federal Reserve. It's central banks. And do you believe for 1 nanosecond that they're going to stop their easy money policies? Because that's what's driving the market. Nothing else matters. Nothing. Fundamentals don't matter. Technical analysis, you can throw it out the window. It's really the truth here. Forward guidance, PE ratios, nothing. It don't matter. It's all about easy money. And easy money is going to continue to pour into this market on an epic scale. Okay, so all the talks about nonsense, dog shit, tapering and rate hikes and whatever it might be, it's just a distraction. We can see what's happening, people. Look, this big taper, this big taper was announced, they tapered nothing, and you can see the action in the debt market. Yields have come down since the taper was announced. They didn't taper anything. They just lowered their minimum purchases target purchases per month. There's no cap. They can buy anything they want. The market knows that. Henceforth, why? Despite the fear trade, what's the fear trade? The whole entire yield curve coming down, 10-year yield coming down, dollar strength, stock futures lowers, the market under some pressure. That's a fear trade. Despite this, despite what the Fed is doing here, look, they're laughing. You have to understand what's going on. Fed presidents, the Fed chair himself, they're laughing as they string people along in some kind of a twisted, distorted reality that they're pushing on you via the mainstream media outlets. You think you're going to hear this stuff I'm talking about here on the mainstream? No. All they're going to tell you is how great everything is. And it's absolutely out of control. It's propaganda. It's absolute total propaganda. I want to bring a couple of other things to your well, this is not going to surprise you whatsoever. And I want you to look this up for yourself. All right, everything I'm telling you, I want you to look up for yourself. But yet again, people, yet again, JP Morgan, the biggest rigger of the metals markets in the history of the world, got caught again rigging the markets. And now they have to pay another fine, a $60 million fine for rigging the metals market. So that means they made, I don't know, 1,000 times more than that by rigging the market. Understand it's priced in. When an institution like JP Morgan gets in there and rigs the market in their favor, they realize that eventually they're going to have to pay a fine. It's baked into the cake. They put it into their projection of how much cash they're going to make and what kind of a fine they're going to have to pay to do it. But again, no arrests. Not one. And investors in precious metals will never be made whole. Let me explain this to you again. I've told you this. There is no price discovery mechanism whatsoever behind the price action of gold and silver. You want more proof? JP Morgan got caught yet again. I can't tell you how many times this institution has been caught over and over and over again rigging the markets, okay? And again, don't believe Greg Mannarino. Look it up yourself. JP Morgan spoofing precious metals. Look it up. Okay, open up another window again if you don't believe me here. It's not going to stop. They're going to play their game. We're going to play our game. I smile. Again, look, if we know that actually the largest bank on the planet by assets is artificially suppressing the price of metals, what does that tell you? Does that tell you should be buying into that? Absolutely. We're in a debt hyper bubble, people. That's not going to stop. It's not going to stop until it does. And when it does, we're going to know it. Because again, we're watching the yield curve come down. That's a big tell that, again, we should be buying into weakness here. Because it's a fear trade. You understand? I think you get it. My lions, I know my lions. They're probably foaming at the mouth. If you're one of my lions, you are foaming at the mouth right now listening to what I am saying. I guarantee you're foaming at the mouth. We are going to eat. We are going to feed, all of us are, who understand this freaking twisted freak show of a market, okay? And at the same time, those of you that do not trade this market, take advantage of things like JP Morgan rigging the metals market. Good, let them play their game. We're going to play ours. We're bidding against the debt hyper bubble, and we're doing this by holding units of wealth. Okay, they have the world by the throat, like I said earlier, the banks, okay, the central banks via their debt-based system. Debts and deficits are going to continue to hyperballoon. This is all by design. The Fed is going to continue to run its inflation creation machine at full speed here, issuing debt through one door, buying it back through another door, issuing debt through one door, buying it back through another door. I've explained to you, I don't know how long this is, people, that this is deliberate. I explained to you that the Federal Reserve, by their mechanism that they're doing, is massively inflationary. Henceforth, why you're seeing what you're seeing, this is no secret. Do you think you're going to hear this from a talking head on any of the mainstream channels, CNBC, Bloomberg, Fox Business, Reuters? Pick one. No, you're not going to hear this stuff because you can't know it. They must keep you dumbed down and retarded. That's a fact. Look, I use the R word. I'm going to get slammed for that. I guarantee you I'm going to get slammed for using that word. And I don't really care. Look, if you can't handle it, if you don't like my style, I told you, just unsubscribe here. But try to find this kind of information anywhere else. I dare you. I freaking dare you. This is a guy who's kept all of you on the right side of this market for years. And I got your back. I got your back. And I know you have mine. I know you do. Anyway, let's move on further here. So cryptocurrencies right now, under some pressure, people. Look, cryptocurrencies have been stuck in a range for a while. And I cover this. What can we expect with regard to cryptocurrencies moving forward? In my view, look, I don't trade this stuff like the crypto kid does. I do not trade cryptocurrencies. I am a holder of them, and I look to buy into weakness there too. And I've called Bitcoin so accurately. I frighten myself sometimes. Again, telling you to buy it when it was like 3,000, again at 5,000, at 10,000, at 15,000. I told you to buy it again at 41,000, and look where we are now. It's like 58,000. Sure, we've come down, but look, expect volatility in the crypto space. You all know that. With regard to precious metals, people, look, I can't tell you this any more than I already do, but in my view, if you can invest in just one thing, it's going to be physical silver. You all know that. I understand people don't understand the crypto space. They don't want to get into it. That's fine. I understand that trading this market or even investing in this market is not for everyone. I got that too. But if you can do one thing, people, this is it right here. Physical freaking silver. That'll keep you on the right side of the debt hyper bubble when this whole thing reverses. People, this is risk on. The environment will remain risk on. That's why you will buy into weakness here. Listen to Greg Mannarino. Listen to me here, okay? I know you understand this market if you've been with me for any length of time better than anyone. You could probably run circles around a Wall Street analyst with regard to this market if you've been with me for even probably 6 months. That's the truth, because you know exactly what's going on. You know why it's occurring. You understand the dark underside of this, how central banks are literally taking over the freaking world. How they want to right now, believe me, this is what they want. They want another lockdown. They want another global lockdown. Nothing would solidify the power of central banks than another global lockdown. And in Europe, at least, people are sick of it. They have had enough. Here in the United States, look, people here, they in the United States walk through time and space not knowing who they are, what they're doing, or why they're doing it. They've been turned into mental midgets. You don't like retards? Okay, fine. They've been turned into mental midgets who don't understand a damn thing. They've been dumbed down to the highest possible order from the freaking mainstream. Okay, that's what this is all about. And this channel is for winners. It's for freaking winners. And you've all been winning if you've been with me. Period, the end. You all know that. I am very proud to say that. We, right now, you and me, and the thousands and tens of thousands of people. I mean, I think my YouTube channel is up to almost 200,000 here. We're winners. All of us are. Okay? And we got to band together because, like I always say, we need each other. We need each other. And we got to get this stuff out there, people. I urge you to get out there. Not only share this video and give me a thumbs up, which I would greatly appreciate, but start talking about this stuff. And maybe start your own blog. We got to get it out there. We got to get all this stuff out. And the more of us that do this kind of stuff, the stronger we are going to be. And again, we got to wake people up. And I know how difficult this is, believe me. It's nearly impossible. All right, look, before I go off the deep end even any further, I got a present for you. Look who's back. Look, it's Coco. Coco I adopted him several weeks ago from the shelter, as you all know. He has adapted very well to my other dogs, which are also shelter dogs. And look at this guy. It's too much. Too much. All right, people. I love all of you. I mean that. Ponder the things I have spoken about in this segment of Markets to Look Ahead. Share this video. Share what I'm talking about. Think about these things, people. I will see all of you in the morning, and you can count on that.